Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Lots of developments in the VCT over the last 24 hours, not just in terms of rostermania with what M80 might be trying to do with their players potentially going to franchise teams next season after being released as unrestricted free agents, but also drama emerging apparently at Loud. Rumours are saying that Aspas and the entire team are having friction, especially between Aspas and Les, that affected their performance at Tokyo and certainly win at the World Championship, with Aspas expected to leave at the end of the season. Saadhak then responds and says that none of this is true. The team is entirely unified. Who's right on this one? Very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. First of all, wanted to mention this from Cruz from Talon, who unfortunately came into some sort of incident here during a badminton game. Tweets out this image of first week back already get to experience an ambulance. Here he is passed out on the floor. I mean, he tweeted this out himself, it seems. And I think he's okay because he tweeted in jest afterwards. So Noodle says, bro died with the phone in his hands. Like, how did that happen? And he says, I read Talon didn't make it to champion. So he's in good spirits, it seems. And hopefully he's going to be okay and recover very swiftly indeed. Let's talk Ascension, because M80 didn't quite make it, right? They almost made it. They lost to the guard in the end. And the big question was to me, will they maintain this team for next season? Because all the other teams are leaving challenges. And it seems like M80 are going to maybe take a similar approach in terms of stepping away for the time being. It's difficult because in an ideal world, it would be quite nice to see this entire team reform for next year and go again, right? And see if they can make it for the second time, because if they did, they probably would make it next season. But that's not always how things work. And M80 also probably want to do right by their players and allow them to explore options. So Koala Noob and pretty much the entire team except from EU, and you'd think that EU might be in a similar position but just hasn't tweeted about it yet, but I guess we'll see on that one. So Koala Noob, today M80 has let me explore my options as an unrestricted free agent. So looking for all opportunities here. UFA also means that the contract has probably been ended, so it might be a similar story with the other teams because there's no buyout involved here. They can go wherever they please, so maybe they're still kind of part of M80 in some respect, and there's maybe a decent chance that of these players that don't get signed elsewhere will get brought back to M80 and they run it back in challenges next year. But I would think that especially the two players we're just about to get to will have some interest from tier 1. So John QT is another one, of course the IGL for the roster, UFA now as well. Nismo, right, probably star player for the team, also says the same thing. So yeah, Nismo, all of those guys pretty much, with the exception, as I say, of EU, who hasn't tweeted about this yet, are looking for potential offers. Will Nismo like get a spot on a tier 1 roster? Of course, there's going to be mass rostermania, as there always is, post the World Championship. I think Nismo could be a valuable asset. Probably the most likely, I would say, is Xander. There's been quite a lot of, rumours linking Xander even to Thieves previously, and I think he could be a valuable asset there as well. So it's a shame to see that great M80 team is almost certainly going to break apart. I think that at least one or two of these guys will get offers elsewhere for potentially better. If it's a tier 1 offer, then they'll take it over going back to M80. But if they don't get offers, or like 3 of the 4 don't get offers, then maybe they'll go back and they'll at least form part of that squad again for next season, which would be nice. Because I think M80, the way they've operated so far as an organisation, are in the ballpark of deserving a spot in franchising if they were to make it and they were to, let's say, qualify through Ascension next year. They're an organisation that I think would do right by themselves if they were able to get to that point. And Marco says, founder and CEO over there, we appreciate and care about the players and coaches who built this team, because the coaches, the assistant coaches, have also tweeted similar things. Every one of them is a tier 1 player and coach and can compete at that level. They deserve any opportunity presented. We just came short of our goal last season. We hope to run it back as a unit, but the players absolutely have a right to explore any opportunities they feel would be best for them. That's how the program works, because they built the blueprints. We'll be back in challenges next season with the same goal, same mentality, and hopefully the same core. The only difference will be next season we are winning it all. So their intention is to keep together the roster, but they're letting their players explore options, which I think is a nice thing to do, but potentially fair few of them might well return for next season's iteration as well. Quick mention before we discuss Loud then on this from C9 Jake, right? So we saw a bit of drama the other day. His girlfriend tweeted something about the Latin American region. Jake then seemed to be, well, he did this tweet, which maybe was just responding to some trash talk he was getting in his DMs after they lost, but it was perceived that he was in some respect defending his girlfriend. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. And he hasn't exactly been making too many friends over the last few days in, let's just say, the fan base of the professional scene. Now, Jake actually does a tweet on this yesterday and says, I'm aware of my girlfriend's tweet, which does not align with my character or beliefs. I'm handling this privately and request your understanding at this time. So it's kind of funny, like, how is it that whenever people and like players do these tweets, it's so obvious, like, did he write this? You know what I mean? Is this not just a pure PR tweet? I mean, especially the way it says, request your understanding at this time, it doesn't align with my character. It's like, okay, maybe he did write this. Maybe he asked ChatGPT to write this. But these tweets always come across as like massive PR tweets, which, you know, maybe this is true, and I think it's good that he's put out some sort of a statement. But, you know, you feel like you'd wish that these type of comments were slightly more personal rather than feel like they've been written by a robot. Maybe that's just my perspective. But I did want to give the update on what Jake's up to, and maybe he'll give some further kind of indication on this over the coming days. Let's talk then about Brazil, because there's lots of drama in Brazil, in these Brazilian teams, and more will follow. Firstly, Ye says, flying to Brazil. So whether he's just baiting here, joking around, oh, I'm joining Loud and all this, joining potentially other teams, maybe, or he's actually going on vacation in Brazil, which would be interesting. So I suppose read into that one as you like, but the main story around Brazil is around Loud. The reigning world champions, they're turning up to the World Championship, surely coming off the back of a terrible performance, no doubt, at Masters Tokyo. The rumour has it that Aspas and Loud, Aspas arguably their star player, are going to split apart after the World Championship. The rumour has it that they travelled back to Brazil recently to practice, and he didn't want to go. He stayed with his girlfriend in Los Angeles, and therefore they've been scrimming with another player, Havoc, instead, who is almost certainly too young to actually play at Champions, and therefore Aspas will come back in, presumably, but apparently they've not been scrimming with him, which indicates massive internal friction and conflict. This is what they had to say in a video that I would suggest after this video is over. Go check it out on ShahZaM's channel with all the detail and discussion on this, and even further detail that I'm about to share for you guys in a second. But it actually started with this tweet from Noyan earlier this month, where he says that it's very likely that Aspas is going to leave after the Champions, and it doesn't feel like there's going to be smoke without fire on this one.
Les, who previously had issues with Saci, and Les and Saci's issues were, you know, part of the reason that, along with the money that Sentinels threw him, which is why Saci and Pancata ended up leaving Loud to begin with, is that Les and Aspas have been having a ton of issues going all the way back to Tokyo, and is part of why they had such a disappointing performance in Tokyo. And that not just Les, but the entire Loud team has had issues with Aspas and his personal relationship in his real life, and how that is affecting the team's performance. They do not think, from what I've been told, that he had been exactly committed to the best performance of the team, and he has had too much outside influence and allowing this outside influence to affect his practice regimen and to affect his commitment to what is best at the team. And when I've been told, that has affected their Tokyo performance very heavily. In addition to this, I've been told that the 4 players went back to Brazil a couple weeks ago, after the season was over, and had been practicing with another player,
Havoc,
named Havoc, who was also spoken about with Noyan, and they had been scrimming as 5, and Aspas stayed in Los Angeles and did not travel back with the team. Stayed with his girlfriend in Los Angeles and did not travel back with the team, and they had been scrimming with a union sub.
So even in addition to what was said there by Sasha in the clip that I shared, there also are rumours, because Aspas is great friends with Saci and apparently Pancata, that potentially that trio could form going into next season, potentially at either Sentinels or Furia. And then ShahZaM also mentions that Loud are getting crushed in scrims right now, which will always make you a little bit more frustrated, right? Even though scrims don't matter and scrim bucks aren't particularly relevant, from like a team mentality perspective, if you're getting smoked in scrims, you're not going to necessarily have a great time turning up to the event. So this is really interesting stuff, and especially because Saadhak then comes out in the replies and says that none of this is true. Now, I'm not sure I fully buy this, but we'll see what he says. Our team has been always closed to the outside. We exist within our bubble, and we leave everyone outside the team outside of the team. Incredible what people do to create clickbait without knowing anything. We are united and focused 100% for the champions, or for the World Championship. So I think Saadhak probably knows what he's doing here in part, but I doubt there'd be comments like this from Slasher and also Noyan, well-known Brazilian leaker we saw a couple of seconds ago, if there was absolutely nothing going on and it's all fine. As I said before, there's very rarely smoke to this degree without some sort of fire. It might not be to the same level that Slasher's describing it as, but it feels difficult to believe that there's not some internal issues, especially given the complete lack of performance that Loud showed at Masters Tokyo. So what does this mean going forwards? Is it true that Les has become the figure of Sassy that, because Les and Sassy didn't get on, like Les felt frustrated by the way that Sassy was treating him, and maybe Aspas feels the same now about Les. But then again, is this another tale as old as time, when esports player finds girlfriend wants him to spend more time with her, and therefore doesn't fully commit to the implication here, right, that Aspas is not committing 100% to the performance of the team, spending time in LA with his girl instead, and that's not what the team want him to be doing. Saadhak denies this and says that nothing like this is actually going on there, but again, we've seen it so many times where a reporter, leaker says something, there's some rumours emerging, team entirely denies it, they go to the event, they underperform, they break apart, and then a couple of weeks later we find out that, yeah, actually a lot of that stuff was indeed true. So I imagine we're going to have a similar story here again, and Slasher seems confident enough to say that 90% likelihood Aspas is going to be gone from Loud after the World Championship. And I imagine to many fans of Loud, they've been somewhat confused as to why they just collapsed quite a bit. I mean, they were looking good for the majority of the Americas regular season. They did beat NRG and they did win the entire thing right in the finals, but I don't think they looked quite, even though they won a lot of these series, they didn't look quite as good, I think, in the latter half of these playoffs as they had done in the first half, I would say at least, even though the kind of series records don't necessarily show that. It felt like they weren't quite at the same level, and then they go to Masters Tokyo and they underperform. They get to the playoffs, of course, because they auto-qualified, lose to EG, lose to Edward Gaming, both 0-2, didn't even win a map. So I think, you look at these results and you think, yeah, probably things internally aren't great. It's not guaranteed. Slasher says if it wants to load, yeah, all good. So just kind of responding to what Saadhak said, and we'll see what happens at the World Championship. But I think it is very likely that something is going to change over there. And what does that mean for Loud's chances at the championship itself, looking to defend their title? On this evidence, it's going to be very difficult to achieve. Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.